like to call this meeting of the Board of Water Commissioners to
Recording in
order.
progress.
It is January 28th, 2025. The time is 5:30 PM. This meeting is being held in person and/or remotely as an alternate means of public access pursuant to Chapter 2 of the Acts of 2023 and all other applicable laws, temporarily amending certain provisions of the open meeting law. You are hereby advised that this meeting and all communications during this meeting may be recorded by the Town of Hingham in accordance with the open meeting law. If any participant wishes to record this meeting, please notify the chair at the start of the meeting in accordance with Mass General Laws, Chapter 30A, Section 20F, so that the chair may inform all other participants of said recording. Is there anyone else recording? Seeing none, I will note for the record that participating in the meeting this evening is Liz Klein, Bill Ramsey, and myself, Joe Fisher. First item on our agenda is to consider the removal of billing services from the agreement with Veolia Water Contract Operations USA, Inc. for the operation and maintenance of the Ware River Water System. And we have our Superintendent, Russell Tierney, with us.
Thanks, Joe. Appreciate it.
How are you?
Good, I'm good. I'm doing good. So as everyone's aware, we recently approved to, take the option of the next 5 years with Veolia's contract. Part of that contract is it's two separate sections. One is operation and maintenance, the other one is billing. One of the things we've discussed in the past and kind of looked at again was taking the billing services and bringing them over to Hingham Municipal Light and Power. So in the spring of '24, I started discussing this with Tom and HMLP. They were very on board with doing it. I know that they thought about doing it at the beginning when we first purchased the water system. So we finally went from HMLP board in 1/14/25, and they approved definitely to move forward with moving the billing over to HMLP, billing and customer service. We did do a study with a company called Trinex. They reviewed out all of the operations at HMLP. They also reviewed our operations and stating that the current billing software would accommodate the Ware River Water System customers. Another caveat, which is a good thing, it would also accommodate the Hingham Sewer Commission customers. One of the things we're looking at is combining the bills together. The staffing would need to increase by 3. HMLP will interview the current customer service representatives at Ware River that work for Veolia now and talk to them about coming over to HMLP. There is a meter installer that we will have at HMLP. We will add a second meter installer, and this all fits within the budget that we've set forth. A second meter installer would be added to the current staffing plan, so meaning HMLP's meter person and a new meter installer would handle meters, electric and water going forward. Veolia is still going to assist us as needed with meters. We're not going to remove the meter installer from their contract so that they can keep helping us as needed with meters and other things that we need to do. The other thing is we looked at the budget, and right now HMLP reviewed it, and we have about a $450,000 budget for this year's services. Part of that is a one-time fee, which might come off later, but again, we are going to reserve the right to maybe hire another meter person if we need to. So we're going to review operations every 6 months just to make sure everything's going smoothly. Tom and I also talked about going AMI as a group, which is advanced meter infrastructure. HMLP has been wanting to go there in FY27. We want to go there in around FY27, 28. So we're going to join forces together and see if we can find something that's advantageous for both of us that will save the town some money on going that route, combining both our resources to get it done. Holland Cohasset water customers will just receive a water bill from Ware River, not anything else at this time. The meter reading and replacement activities will remain in Veolia's agreement, but we will have to do a change on there for their number of meters they have to replace each year, which was part of the contract, but I'll talk to John about that, and we'll get that done afterwards if this is approved. The other thing is the next steps. If approved by the Board of Water Commissioners, we will meet with Cogsdale, who is the billing company for the transition. We'll schedule a kickoff meeting in the next couple of weeks. Cogsdale is aware of our desire to go live on August 1st, 2025. We will develop a transmission plan with timelines and goals. We will meet with potential customer service representatives so that we can make sure that HMLP is fully staffed when we hit the ground in July. And the goal is to move over the CSRs on July 1st and then work over the billing on August 1st. So that's exactly how we've mapped it out so far. I can say that Darren and Veolia have been very accommodating about this. We had a good discussion about it, and they're going to help us as much as they can to move forward with getting this transitioned over. That's it.
Thank you. So HMLP, as you know, is Hingham only. and the water company is 3 towns. How will that work?
It'll be fine, because one of the things that we talked about, and I know you've mentioned a lot, Joe, is combining the bill and making one bill for utilities. So they'll have power, water, and sewer on one bill. Cogsdale does believe they can do that from off the get-go, but we did tell them very specifically that if they have to split the bills for a couple of years just to make sure everything transitions well, then we'll do it that way. But if they can do it all at once, then there's no problem. All it'll do is when we bill the other towns, they'll just get a water bill. So they already said they can do it with no problem whatsoever. So Hingham residents will get a water, sewer, and potentially light bill at the same time. Those other 2 towns will get just water bills from Hingham Municipal Light and Power. And we also want to shift to monthly billing.
So have we confirmed that HMLP has the authority to do billing outside of the town?
Yep, John Coughlin did send us a
Okay.
rule that says they can do it.
And the transition of workers from the water company over to the light company, is that something that is to be negotiated?
No, because the customer service reps work for Veolia.
Right,
They're non-union, so if their positions are going away, they can apply for another job. So
got it.
we've already talked to them about it, and it's up to them to decide if they want to go talk to HMLP or not.
Right, okay. And as you know, we value the relationship with Veolia.
Yep.
Do you see this as disrupting the relationship?
I don't. I've not been told that it has. What I will say is that what this will do is allow us, because right now we have 2 or 3 people that are every day looking at meters, changing meters, doing meters. We can divert their efforts to other things that we need done, like installing more flushing hydrants, looking at the valves so that we can have a better flushing program
Right.
in the future. So those tasks that we have trouble getting to in some instances can now be tackled by the staff that will be freed up from doing meters.
So this is not intended to be a divorce. It's really, we're really
No.
sort of pulling out one particular function, but continuing the main relationship.
Correct.
And my understanding is that this does not require a change in the contract.
It'll take that one section out. The only change to the contract will be their one line item that they have. They have to replace so many meters per year.
Okay.
We're going to have to talk about that, but that will do that once this is approved. The big thing I think it is, it's going to, the biggest reason for moving this is it's going to benefit the town, cost-wise, conformity-wise, and have 6 customer service reps at HMLP working on both. It just will help the customers be able to get to what they need faster and easier and things like that.
Yeah, I mean, I think from a customer relationship standpoint, having a local person, Hingham, and even if they're Hull or Cohasset, that they can contact and reach and get things resolved, I think is clearly in everyone's interest.
And the 3 customer service reps that work for Veolia have been doing a great job.
Yep.
I just think sometimes they need a little extra help on these bad days, where if we're in HMLP and we had a main break, now at least 3 other people from HMLP can help them tackle phone calls and do the things. So I think it's going to be a very good transition, a very good thing to do.
But when I was asking about the contract, my understanding is the contract anticipates that we can provide notice to do this transition.
Correct.
Okay, great.
Absolutely.
Liz?
Thank you. Thank you, Russ. So just building off of that, the change in contract, so this would be the 6-month notice.
Yep.
How does it impact the overall budget and what we're paying Veolia?
It doesn't, actually, we're going to benefit from it. We're going to have a savings, which we are going to incorporate into making the operation of the meters and changing meters out a little better than what it is now. It's not against what they're doing, it's just there's so many meters that are failing us right now, we need to get a little faster in replacing them.
Right, we need more bandwidth and
Yeah, we need more
people on the
bandwidth,
ground. Right, so are we paying for that meter staff on a as-needed basis, or are those salaried?
For an HMLP?
Veolia.
Within Veolia?
No, their part of their contract is to do meters, so we're going to
Okay.
leave that portion of it, it's just the number of
Intact.
meters they replace.
Okay, got it. I think this seems like a good situation for Veolia and the water system as a whole. And certainly HMLP is a proven, I think, best practice in the town for how they handle billing and customer service. So I'm glad that we're leveraging that. I think there's a lot to gain here for everybody. So I know you said the Light Board approved, obviously it's in front of the water commissioners tonight. What other steps have to take place?
After you guys approve it, it's all on us.
Okay. And it sounds like it would move quickly and we would start the kickoff meeting and implementing July 1?
No, the customer service will move on July 1st. We're talking about implementing the billing on August 1st, only because Veolia's contract will be 6 months on August 1st.
Okay,
So it'll be the 6-month notice.
okay, excellent. All right, thank you.
Mr. Ramsey?
Yeah, I think it's a good move to head in this direction. You mentioned cost savings. Can you just explain the cost savings in a little more detail so people know?
Yeah, it's like 300,000.
300,000, great. Great. Thank you, Russ.
And that's annual.
Annual, correct.
Tom, anything you wanted to add?
Nope, great job, Russ. Thank you.
All this discussion about meters, I keep hearing the Beatles song, Lovely Rita. Meter. I know it's a different kind of meter, but
Understood.
no, I really, I appreciate the effort that's gone in to making this happen. And I know it's not just you, but you've been really spearheading it, so thank you. And thank you to Veolia for facilitating this as well. So with that, I am prepared to accept them. Oh, before I do, are there any comments, questions from members of the public? Seeing none, I am prepared to accept a motion.
I'll make a motion to exercise the town's right to remove billing services from the agreement with Veolia Water Contract Operations USA Incorporated, formerly known as Suez Water Environmental Services Incorporated, dated June 18, 2020, for the operation and maintenance of the Ware River Water System effective August 1st, 2025, and to authorize the town administrator to provide written notice of said removal to Veolia Water Contract Operations USA Incorporated.
Second.
Roll call vote. Liz?
Aye.
Bill?
Aye.
And I am an aye as well. Thank you. And so, so who is going to actually provide the written notice? Is it coming from you, Tom, or from?
Yes.
Okay, and that will be done before the end of the month. And there it is. Terrific. Great. Okay, we will then move to review of the proposed fiscal year '26 Ware River Water System Enterprise Budget and proposed water rates. And you are the star again, Russ.
No problem at all, Joe. So over the past 4 years, we've made significant improvements in the water system. We've invested over $13 million in the water system, upgrading water mains, installing additional fire hydrants, performing upgrades and improvements at the water treatment facility. In addition, we continue to maintain the water system and its aging components through programs and planning. This planning, overall management of the system, resources available to the Ware River Water System, we will not need to seek a rate increase at this time to meet our FY26 operating goals. However, although the water usage rates will not increase, we will institute a capital investment charge to all water bills beginning July 1st, 2025, for the final design and construction of the new 1.0 million gallon water storage tank and booster station. Residential customers will see an annual charge of $65 per single-family dwelling, which will be billed quarterly at $16.25. If we move to monthly billing, it will go down to a monthly charge. This money is going to be used to build the new tank and the new booster station. We are going to emphasize right now that that is for residential only. Commercial, institutional, and municipals are going to have a different rate. I am sitting with our what are they? Our consultant right now, and we are looking at what to charge the larger units. Because you don't want to have a large building be charged $65 a year if there's 30 people living in it. So we are working on what that charge will be. I did throw some numbers at it. That's how I got to where the residential is, but I think we're going to
So
massage it a little bit more.
is the residential number fixed?
The residential number is fixed, 65.
So
It might go to 64, but-
I was going to say, I don't know how you fix it until you know the overall,
because I used numbers for the other stuff,
right?
and I got to where we were paying it off, but I don't think they're being charged enough at this point. So I want them to review it for me to make sure my numbers are correct on the municipal, commercial, and industrial side.
Got it.
Residential, absolutely positively can stay where it is.
It can stay where it is or perhaps go
Or
lower.
perhaps go down. It may go down $1 or $2, but I just, like I said, 65 is the starting point.
Okay, and that is not based on usage?
No,
But it's
just a-
it's a capital charge?
Absolutely capital charge.
And if you could just be clear with us, the distinction between a rate increase and a capital charge is that capital charge goes away once the capital project...
Once the capital project is done and paid for through the long-term note,
Right.
it will go away.
Right, as opposed to a rate increase, which tends to perpetuate
Stays forever.
itself.
Yeah.
Got it.
Where was I? Okay, sorry. The work that we do cannot be, accomplished without the support of the Select Board, the Board of Water Commissioners, the Town Administrator's Office, and our, liaison, which I thought was Joe until 10 minutes ago. Now it's Liz, but that's okay.
We all want you.
Gonna pass around, so, but I thank you all for all your support throughout the year so we can get these things done and improve the water system. So our projected budget for this year, total revenue is $14,260,000. That is just operating revenue. That does not include the capital charge, because that's gonna go in a separate account so we can pay off the capital. The total expenses is pretty much even. We fund balanced, Michelle and I, $14,260,000. It does say in the budget that it's a 1.7% increase from from FY '25, but I did a little digging, and Michelle and I had taken a couple things out of this year's budget and moved them to a different line. I think the system deleted it from '25, so I did another sheet, and it's only a 0.5% increase. So the 1.7 is a little skewed because of the fact that Michelle and I had taken a few things out, and the system had taken it off of '25, so that number's lower than it actually was last year. So it's still not, it's not really an increase at 1.7, in my opinion. Our salaries are down a little bit because some of my salary is going to go towards the Hingham Soil Commission, as I'm going to take over responsibility for that in the near future. Our long-term debt service is about $2.6 million a year for the principal on the water company purchase and $3 million a year for the interest, $116,000 a year for principal on the capital improvement borrowings, and $97,000 a year for the interest on the capital improvement borrowings. Our short-term debt service will be about $300,000 this year. Our short-term debt service is what we're using now, and then it'll get transferred over to a long-term debt once we use it. And that's basically the operating budget. We move into the capital budget. Our capital budget is based on 4 factors. One is the master plan from October 2022 from Environmental Partners, the 5-year road improvement plan, any roads that might start to get reconstructed, even though I didn't know about them. The Route 3A project is going to throw a little loophole into what we're doing, but that main is on the plan to be replaced. It's just going to be replaced about a year early, so that the state can do that roadway, because we do not want the state to build a brand-new road, just like we did on Atlantic Ave and Hull. We don't want the state to build a brand-new road and us ruin that brand-new road with an aging water main, so we're going to work on replacing that. We also look at, the change in regulations by EPA and Mass DEP. One of the examples is PFAS. So some of our capital money is going to have to go to the plant if we need to do upgrades to the plant. That's a 1-year out plan right now. We're getting a proposal to do a study on the plant to make sure that we're equipped and ready to go in 2027, 28 to combat any PFAS that we may have. Also, we look at the water treatment facility equipment age. The good news is the oldest things that were in there have now been replaced. The centrifuges have been replaced and a few other things, so the plant's looking really good, and it's running very well. And we're going to borrow our capital. We'll continue at about $3 million this year. That'll be our capital borrowing for this year. I'm sorry, for FY '26. Distribution system, we did reduce our account for water. We are waiting for the numbers for this year, and we're confident it will go down a little bit more. We've also installed 23,500, there's an extra zero on there, but 23,500 linear feet of water main. Of that 23,500, 12,745 was a direct recommendation from our master plan, which is about 14.5% of the water main recommended in the master plan. The master plan was a 10-year plan, so we are pretty much on schedule with the 10-year plan. We've added 84 additional fire hydrants in the system for firefighting protection. We've added 6 additional flushing hydrants installed on dead-end mains. That is an ongoing program which we'll pick back up in the spring, where we go into sections of town and we take complaints from the residents and we look at that water main. If it's dead-ended with no hydrant on it, we will add one of these flushing units on so we can flush it out when we do our flushing program. We replaced about 102 inoperable hydrants, 10 gate valves, and we've installed 18 new gate valves in the system. At the plant, we continue to do everything that we do there. The media has been replaced. All the under drains were replaced last year with brand-new stainless steel. Both centrifuge units were replaced with new energy-efficient models. They came out, that project went very well. They're doing very well, especially with the fact that we moved our chemical addition downstairs to where it should be, and it's now helping us treat faster, better, and more efficiently. Our PFAS levels are well under 10. The MCL for the state right now is 20, except for that's going to change, as we all know. Our lead and copper levels are well within compliance, and we replaced some aged pumps and pumping equipment within the water treatment plant. On to the storage tank, which we borrowed, got approval to borrow for last year. This spring, we have final design and permitting. Summer and fall of '25, we're going to have bidding and awarding. Fall and winter of 2025, we're going to do some minor site work and prep work. The spring of 2026 to the summer of 2027 will be the full construction of the tank. Right now, our goal, and this could be shorter, but I want to make sure that we give ourselves enough time. Our projected start date online will be the fall of 2027 for the new tank. And that's it. Any questions?
So I'm going to start with a question that you may want to defer, or we can talk about it now, which is, as you know, we've had some breaks, and people have experienced groundwater. Do we have enough in the budget to address that? And are we on track to address it? To put it differently,
Yep.
there may be residents who say, increase my water rates just so we can deal with the problem. So
So I can say-
give us your take on that.
So when you have a dirty water from a water main break, the mains are breaking. Mains are going to break this time of year. If you read the papers and everything, I've talked to people that I am in the business with, it sounds like Pembroke, Marshfield, Brewster have all had main breaks in the past 2 weeks. Some towns doubled what we have, because when the frost gets deeper and deeper, it'll shift, it'll snap. Even if a pipe's 15 years old, it'll snap, it could snap that pipe depending on how it's set, how it was put in. The biggest thing that
Excuse
was
me,
always,
we've had Nanook of the North come in.
just like anything else, one of the biggest reasons for dirty water when a water main break is the lack of flushing that was done prior to us coming on board.
Right.
We have been doing what we call conventional flushing for the first few years, because if you go straight into a unidirectional flushing program, it can cause way more headaches than a conventional flushing program. We have revised the flushing program, and we are planning on the spring of '25 to start a unidirectional program. If we run into any problems with the valves and things that we need, we may push it off one more season, but our goal is to get it done this season. What that does is when you start controlling the water with the valves, it increases velocities, it increases pressure in the mains, and it cleans the pipes better. The good news is, and I know people had some dirty water over this past break, the last time we had a break on this street is when it caused a lot more dirty water throughout bigger area of town. It also settled out more quickly than it has in the past. We are finding that the streets that were most affected by this are the dead-end streets. So now we'll look at, one of the things I want to, encourage residents is, if you have a complaint, I don't mind complaints, I will take complaints, and I don't take them personally, but they are good information for us. So if you're going to complain, please send me your address, because the best thing for us to have is more information about whose addresses are having problems. And one of the places is Summit Ave was always a problem. When we were doing the main on Downer Ave and Lincoln Street, the residents up in that area had a lot of dirty water. I looked into it and found that every street up there was put in with a dead-end main. The hydrants were 200 and 300 feet away from the end of the main. So what we did last summer is we installed these little flushing hydrants that do clean out the 2-inch lines. And now we're gonna look at, do we kick up our schedule on those dead ends? We did just also do it in 3 other streets that we've been having problems with. So the more that residents give us, the more we can look at it and look at how we can help mitigate it when it happens. We did go up and flush Summit Ave today.
So I want to return to the budget, because this is really a
Yeah,
budget
I'm sorry.
question. And the question is whether or not the budget is sufficient to address the issues that are being raised.
It is right now,
Right, I mean,
in my opinion.
It-
I think
right.
that if we try to accelerate main replacement, we're gonna put ourselves in a hole, and then residents are gonna pay way more water. I think you give us a few more years with the flushing program and adding these flushing hydrants and getting more productive with preventative maintenance than replacing water mains.
so my understanding, and please correct me if I'm wrong, is to a large extent, this is not a need for additional capital improvements or an accelerated capital improvements. It's more an operational issue about making sure we're doing flushing adequately, frequently, and the right way.
Correct. Correct. You also, another thing people have to understand, we're also up against water. So sometimes we'll start a flushing program and we start to get up against, are we using too much water? Is the tank dropping too much? So one of the biggest problems with our flushing is we have one tank. And that's why this tank that we're putting in Hull was the #1 priority in the master plan, because there's not enough storage for us to do a really adequate
Right.
flushing, even in Hingham. Because as we start to flush in Hingham, the tank drops. Down in the water treatment plant has to really watch the levels, because we don't want to get to a point where we're losing fire protection. So we really have to balance, it's a real big balance. Once we put this other million-gallon tank up, it'll help us a lot with that process.
Great, thank you. Liz?
Thank you, Joe, and thank you, Russ, for the presentation. I have a question about one of the line items, the reserve fund. Can you
Yeah.
explain what that is?
So the reserve fund is put in there for us in case we have a small problem that we weren't planning on. So it just lets us have a little extra money in case something goes in the wrong direction. Plus, it also is the money that I use to do the HMLP, analysis of HMLP to move over to us. I did not have that in the budget, but I used the reserve fund to do it.
Okay.
So it's in there for that. You know, like the PFAS study, I really didn't have it in the I don't really think it's a capital thing anyways, but I did not have that in the regular budget, but I could use the reserve funds to do the PFAS study. So it's things that we don't anticipate that we need to
Like
get.
a contingency?
Yeah, contingency.
Okay, got it. And related to Joe's point, I had posed the question as well. Although we don't want to raise rates, and we know this capital charge is coming, and we've tried to be conservative, I do want to make sure that we are executing and implementing on that capital improvement plan. And if we need to raise rates to be able to do that better or faster, we want to know that.
Absolutely.
And make a, a really educated decision about that.
I did talk to our consultant today about that, and they're going to give me some ideas over the next couple of weeks. I mean, I have my own ideas, but I always like to bounce it off someone else.
Okay.
See what else we can do.
Great. Certainly, one of the reasons, to go back in history a few years, one of the reasons the town wanted to buy the water system is to invest in the infrastructure.
Yep.
And we are doing that, probably not as quickly as we would like. We can't fix it overnight, obviously. It's hundreds of years old. But again, using your expertise and the consultants you're working with, please let us know if there's anything else that we should be doing.
Absolutely.
And if it is a budget issue, we certainly want to work with that.
Got it.
I don't have any other questions right
Bill.
now.
Great. Yeah, so Russ, my question is kind of related to the budget, but also the water main breaks. Want to draw that out. I think we have some interest in that issue tonight. So did I hear you say we've invested $319 million in capital?
No, 13 million.
13.
I'm sorry, 13 million in capital. All right, that's a lot of money. 13 million in capital. All right, so with respect to the water main break at Levitt Street this past week, how old were those pipes?
Those pipes are in the 1940s, right around there, I would say.
So,
They're 80 years old.
80 years old, okay. So, and what was the temperature? It was like under 10 degrees?
It was under 10 degrees.
Okay. I remember when, years ago, before Weir River bought the system, my pipes were replaced on North Street. I remember asking, what's the age of those pipes? They told me it was 1915.
Those pipes are.
Do we have some system?
Oh, yeah.
Do we have pipes going back to the early 1900s?
We have 100-year-old pipes. So one of the 100-year-old pipes we're actually replacing next year.
Okay, so in terms of the capital improvement plan to try to mitigate the breaks, how do you triage that? Do you look at age, functionality? Just talk a little bit about that.
It starts with age and brake history, then it goes into hydraulics. How does that change benefit the hydraulics of the system? That's basically the three factors. But it starts with age, goes with brake history, then with how it's going to help us hydraulically. Some of the mains we're replacing in the tank program are mains that are on the plan, but they're also mains that we need to increase so we can get water from that tank down into Hull. So it's doing it in two different ways. We're constantly reviewing and looking at it, like the one on Levitt Street, that's the second time it's broke. So now I've changed some planning to look at that section of the water main on Levitt Street.
The age of those pipes, 80 years or more, that's fair to say that that's pretty common, isn't it? I mean, the
very-
system.
it's very common.
A lot of pipes on the system go back to pre-World War II, correct?
Correct.
All right, and.
Actually, some go back to before World War I.
Yes.
And lastly, I know that, you've kind of put operating procedures in place with respect to mitigation.
Yep.
When a break occurs, can you just talk through that?
Yeah, so one of the things we learned from our experiences is we have to be a little better on mitigating after we finish a break. So when you finish a break, you turn on the valves, and you have to be more cautious of getting the dirt out of the pipe or any of the discoloration out of the pipe before you open the valves into the system, which they did a great job with in this 12-inch water main break. The staff told me that they flushed it for a good 35 minutes just in that section before they opened up everything else, which I talked to Hull yesterday, and that's where it would shoot right down East Street, down Hull Street, right into Hull if we really had that much in that pipe, and we had no complaints from Hull.
My last question is.
Or the library, I checked the library first, that's one of the
Library
best
as well.
places to check.
My last question related to capital, but I asked the fire chief the same question. Obviously, everybody has been following the events in California. One of the concerns was related to water pressure. I asked the fire chief, does he have any concern about water pressure? Any parts of town, particularly North Hingham, that are higher, elevated? Do you have any concern about water pressure anywhere else throughout the city?
No, the only times I've been here that we had a little bit of water pressure issues was the Man Street fire. But the hydrant at the top of the street is the very top. I think the chief said that it might have been not the best hydrant to use at that time, but they did a great job with that fire with what they had. They did have a little trouble with that hydrant, but then they moved right back down and had plenty of pressure at the bottom of the hill. So it's just actually running a little more hose, but it worked out very well.
Great, thank you.
Very good. So we are going to move on to the Veolia and Water Superintendent update. I have a feeling we've heard some of that already, but
I
you
believe-
can invite your compatriot up,
Yep. Come on up, Darren.
Darren.
The only other update that I have is, we did apply for another grant for leak detection. It's a $50,000 grant through Mass DEP that was very fast-tracked, hoping that it's still there after tomorrow. But it's gonna help us do a little more leak detection, conserve more water conservation. We've also put into this, these leak detection units that attach to the pipe or a hydrant. And what that also will do will help us look at catching leaks faster. So these units go out in the system, they go back to a computer, and we can actually monitor them on a daily basis. So that's part of this grant that we're looking at, to try and help us get to leaks faster than we are now. So that's about all I have besides everything else I've talked about.
Great. So, Darren, if you could just introduce yourself for the record, please.
Darren Dorth, Project Manager for Veolia Ware River Water the treatment plant. So what we've begun doing and scheduling is doing our well rehabilitations. We do this each year, so we don't have any issues in the spring or summer. It's something that we've continuously done, and we started that actually today. Free Street 4 and 5. We've nearly completed the Tier 2 completions to the ERP, Environmental Protection Agency. That also goes to Chief Steve Murphy, with an invitation for the firefighters to come to the plant so they know if there is an issue, what chemicals are on hand at any given time as a safety measure in the emergency response plan for them. Winter maintenance continues. It's all being done in-house with our maintenance staff. They're doing a fantastic job. And we're just continuing with improvements throughout the plant, upgrading and redundancy. So we don't have any issues and continue running well.
Great. Let me ask both of you about communications. That's something that this board has focused on in the past and that we continue to focus on to make sure that word reaches the residents, the users, if there are incidents. Are you receiving comments or complaints that either the word's not getting out, or it's not understandable, or other issues with respect to communications? Because no matter how good of a job you do, if people don't understand what's going on, there can be miscommunications.
So the biggest thing we're finding is when someone doesn't get notified, they're not hooked, they're not registered to be notified. So we just can't stress enough to have people get on the billing system and sign up for notifications. There are instances where some individuals feel they get notified too much. I understand that, but again, if there's a problem in your area, you want to get notified. We are really good about boxing out the area where it's all, everything's being affected, but we did take the proactive approach on this 12-inch main break to notify the entire water system. We thought that was the best approach for this break because it's such a large water main break. You never know what's going to happen, so we absolutely stretched that out across the entire water system. So the only thing we stress the most is just register to get notifications through the billing system, and it'll really help. We
maybe-
do have Facebook up and running.
Okay, can you just refresh at least my recollection? Because before, my understanding was that you needed to be on the billing system to register, and there were people who rent apartments who were not necessarily on the billing system, and they wanted to get notice. Has
Correct.
that been addressed?
Yes and no. So we've been talking to the people that run these apartment buildings and things like that. They're all doing a much better job. Like they were getting our notices and being like, it's a notice. So they're starting to forward those to people. If people aren't getting those from their management companies, let us know, because we will get on top of the management company. Because for us to add these people to our system doesn't work because it's a CSV file, and you'd have to remember to pull it in every time, and you may forget. So we're just trying to put this on the management companies to absolutely just forward, because, a lot of them I've talked to say, we have a whole email system that we use for this, that, and this. I go, then just forward our email to that email.
Right.
So that's one of the things we're working on. I'm not sure how it worked with the Beale Street break the other day. I only got one complaint, I believe, and that's the apartment buildings right there. So I don't know if they did a good job doing it. I didn't hear anything, so.
Okay, and whether or not you're on the billing system, I assume you can register on Facebook and get notices that way.
Absolutely Facebook. Brian and I have been really good about jumping right on Facebook, so.
Great.
If I could add, so when I do get notifications or someone says they did not get notified, I do ask for their address, and I have a current running list of 14,568 people who have unsubscribed,
Well, unsubscribed.
yes. So I asked them for their address, and I find that they've unsubscribed, and I explained to them that you need to subscribe again, and then you would have gotten the notice.
Got it.
So that's a key thing that we ask everyone if they say they don't get the notice.
Okay. Liz?
No questions on the update. I think just related to communications, we have a citizens advisory board that I don't think has met in a while, but it's probably time to get them up and running again, either quarterly or monthly. We can talk to them about that. But that's a great place for citizens, anyone that's part of Ware River Water System. You don't have to be a Hingham resident, can send feedback or attend. Those are all public meetings as well.
I think one of the biggest things too is, if you have complaints, I have no problem with you doing it on Facebook and complaining, but the best thing is email us to water quality so that we can start making a running list of what areas are being affected the most during a break. That way that we could then make some adjustments or go look at these places and take care of it.
Right, that's a good point.
Have the address of someone's house is the best thing for us, because then we know where they live and what area they live in and what the mains look like in that area. So
Right, so we try to keep up to date with that, but Hingham Hub is not technically monitored by anyone in town, so if you have a real issue, please make sure you contact.
the thing is, we don't respond to our Facebook page, we don't monitor it.
Right.
I use it as a tool to get the word out, but I do not look at it. I have other things I'm doing that
Right.
need to be done. So that email, that water quality email does go to 5 of us. So someone is going to pick it up and see it.
Right, great, thank you.
Bill?
Yeah, I think the Facebook page has been putting information out timely, and I appreciate your efforts there, Ross. I know that you're also doing a lot with combating PFAS. Appreciate that. I know we kind of short on time today, but I'd like to bring you back at some point and talk about all the great work you're doing to get PFAS out of our system, but let's hold that for another night.
Yep.
Thank you.
We are working on a public information
Yep.
session to do that.
Great.
Okay. Thank you both. I will now open this up. If there are questions or comments from members of the public, now is your opportunity.
There is Alex O'Connell online.
Alex, do you have a question?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. I joined late, so I apologize if I missed some of this, but it seems like I'm getting weekly robocalls about some issue with the water. And when I call, when I have discolored water, they're telling me to run the water for a while until it's not brown anymore. I'm just wondering a couple things. I think there's a lot of frustration in town that we don't have reliable water, we don't have drinkable water. The amount of people that are paying for full house filtration systems and the amount of money for each of those is kind of ridiculous. I've never lived in a town like this before. Are you refunding people for the days that they have to buy drinking water, cooking water, with the days that they can't bathe their children because the water is discolored? What are you doing about it for people who are paying a lot of money? My bills are very expensive, and it's not reliable water.
So you can absolutely submit something to the abatement at wareriverwater.com, and we will review it. So it's either a claim or an abatement. So if you submit it, we will review it.
That doesn't really address the issue, though. So, like, I'd like some feedback there. on why our water smells like chlorine.
The water's always gonna smell
Why
like
our
chlorine
water
because the
stains our
water's always gonna
clothes.
Yep, the water's gonna smell like chlorine because we have to use it to disinfect. So that's absolutely not going away. There are some residents that are very highly sensitive to chlorine. Some of the things you can do is you can, if you don't want to drink it, you can put it in the fridge for a little while, the chlorine smell will go away. As far as the discoloration, as we work through these sections of town, we start to look at what sections are being hit hardest with the discoloration. We start looking at how we can do a better job flushing those areas, which that is what we do now.
Are we being charged for the water that you're flushing out?
No, you're not being
The
charged. The
water
comes
that
out of
I'm
hydrants
turning
is-
on for
No.
an hour?
No, so,
Flushing,
Russ, so.
In a house?
No, in my house.
So,
you are being charged for the water in your house.
So
If you would
that's a
like,
problem.
no, I understand that. So what I'm going to say to you is if you would like us to consider abating that water you flushed, you let us know when you flushed
How
it.
do I quantify that?
We can quantify it. You don't have to, we can do it.
Just send an email, the
Just
date
say
and
what?
time.
We just say we would like to look at it, we're having an abatement for these 3 days. We'll have someone come read your meter. We can also download your meter as long as it's a newly updated meter. If it's not, we will update it. Then we can come download it. We can see exactly how much water you flushed during that time period.
So every time there's brown water, I'm supposed to go and do this process to get a refund for the amount of water that I have to flush out to get water that's not discolored. I just want to make sure I'm understanding that right.
Yes, yes.
Great.
And then what's your address? Because then I can look at that area of town.
I've already emailed with someone. They came over
Oh.
and
Did I
flushed
email
out
you?
the,
I believe I might have
don't-
just emailed you back
I
an
don't-
hour ago.
it's possible you did. I'm just not happy. I don't think anyone in this town is, and I just would like a little more consideration for the people's, troubles. The amount of time and energy I've spent just emailing back and forth over the last 3 days. It's like I have a full-time job as well.
Okay.
I shouldn't have to worry about my water being safe to drink in a town like Hingham, for sure.
Okay, so I did send you an email, and I can talk to you about it tomorrow, but we are going to look at your area of town and consider doing a little more preventative maintenance work in that area.
And are you going to consider paying for house filter systems that
No.
can filter out
Excuse
all
me.
of the discoloration?
So that is not something that we are looking at. And as a general rule, most people in town are satisfied with the water.
That's
And to the
absolutely
extent
not
that-
true.
And to the extent that you are looking for funds, the funds are all
Yes.
coming out of the Ware River water system. So it would mean others are going to be putting up money in order to have funds going to someone else. So.
I'm paying thousands of dollars for water that is not reliable water that I can drink.
You're leaving us no option besides.
Excuse me, well, you'll be called on when it's,
Split systems in our homes.
I couldn't hear that.
right, we'll call on you afterwards. Let her finish. I'm sorry, go ahead, Alex, I didn't mean to interrupt there.
No, I couldn't hear what that person said, but I just said, like, I'm paying a lot of money as it is, and it's just every week I'm having to question, is this water drinkable? Can I use this water to do my laundry? Can I bathe my kids in this water? I think it's a larger problem, and I don't really know the solution, but I don't have the money to be paying so much money for filtration systems and shower heads and upgrading everything just so that I can have water that I can, like, feed to my kids.
So, as you know, the town purchased the water system to
Yep.
address the very issue that you're raising.
It just seems worse.
At least my personal experience is it seems better. And we have put in a lot of money in terms of capital improvements. We've addressed the operations of the water system to address a really aged system. And I believe the town is moving forward in that direction appropriately.
So, okay, well, I do think a citizen meeting, a town meeting, where you're sharing more of this information, I had to look really hard to, like, figure out when this meeting was, what the info was to call it. It's not, I don't know. It wasn't easily accessible to me. I don't know how many people are on, but
But again, Alex, one of the things, if we know your area of town, we can focus on it. And we already started focusing on some of that by installing the flushing hydrants, which I did last summer. So again, we look at each part of town. There are parts of town that have no issues, and that's like in any water system. There are sections of town, depending on the size of the main, depending on if it's a dead end or not. And unfortunately, your area there's a lot of dead ends. But we did address that with the flushing hydrants. So now that when we go out and do our flushing program, we can come to the end of your street and actually flush it off, which could not be done in the past. So that's one of the things we look at. So that's why I was expressing that everyone should let us know your address so we can look at your section of town.
And Russ, if you do that, will that address the brown water issue?
Over time, it will, yes.
Okay.
I mean, worst case is I'll have to put a regular hydrant in, but at this time, that was our first step at trying to flush out the end of this water main.
And have you increased the frequency of the flushing to address the issue?
We're talking about that in our meeting on Thursday.
Yep.
Okay, great. Alex, we've got someone else who wants to speak, but is there anything
Yep.
else?
No, thank you.
Okay, great, thanks. Did you want to, if you,
Yeah, I was gonna piggyback on what Alex was saying, 'cause
excuse me, if you just, so that others can hear you, if you can come up to the podium?
They can't hear you at home if you're not in the mic, unfortunately.
Thanks. Could you just have your name and address, please?
Yeah, Paige Roach, 24 Fairview Street. I was going to piggyback on what Alex was saying in regards to reimbursements or submitting claims. I didn't know if that extended beyond water usage, but for our sheets, our towels, our clothes, everything else that we're essentially losing in our day-to-day when it shouldn't be this way.
That would be a claim.
It would be,
It wouldn't be
okay.
an abatement, it would be a claim.
Okay, great. And that just goes to the same
You
email?
can send it directly to me or to abatements.
Okay.
Yeah, abatements would be the best place, because that way there I can look at what kind of claim it is.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
And then in regards to your notification system, I wasn't sure if there were plans to invest in your technology and systems. Maybe you could have secondary contacts listed for those people that are renters that might not be able to get that initial communication. I think relying on people forwarding communications or passing it along is not a great option. It leaves plenty of room for human error. I know personally for me, my husband is on point for our household. He spends a lot of time overseas and often isn't in the same time zone as me and can't let me know when the water might be brown or we might be having issues. And so if I was able to have those notifications as well, that would be.
You can add up to 2, 3 email, you can add them to the system. So
Okay.
if you have any problems, just email customer service and copy me, and we'll look into it for you real quick. But if you send us your information, we'll add it to it for you. No
Okay,
problem
and then
at all.
is that the same for like landlords for their
That's
tenants?
different, because you're on the account with your husband, so we can add you without a problem. We are working on, so, I know you weren't here earlier, but we are switching the
I wasn't
billing
here the whole
systems going to HMLP.
Yep.
So we will start working with HMLP and using their notification system, but also, we've all talked about how can we improve that. So that's one thing we're working on when we move over.
Okay. And then this is probably a two-pronged question. One, at the first bullet point of this meeting, you discussed more about the billing, the resourcing, 3 full-time hires. Are those resources being put behind fixing some of these problems, or is it just billing and
That's
meter
billing customer
readings?
service. So, but what we are doing is, by eliminating this portion of the contract from Veolia, it's gonna free up time for some of the staff at Veolia and the operations side to do other stuff that we need to get done to start mitigating some of these issues.
Okay. And then the $65 annual fee for residents with this new tank, that tank should address the hardness, the discoloration, all the problems that we're
That
facing, or
tank will
no?
help with everything, because what happens right now is the tank that we have online now has not been cleaned well, it's been cleaned, but hasn't been rehabbed since it's been put up. So that tank has a lot of fall off on the tank, but we do send divers in there every year to clean it. What this will do is, once we get this tank online, we can take that tank offline, rehabilitate it. That'll give us more flow, more pressure, more velocity to clean out the water mains.
Okay, great.
Unfortunately, it's a couple of years down the road, but we are investing $18 million to do it.
I had one more question. Let me just look back on my notes. In regards to the old pipes, it sounds like you do have a way to track pipes. Some are 100 years, some are 80 years.
Yeah, we have
Is
age.
there a plan to be more proactive in trying to patch or address some of these old pipes? Or are we just continuing to be more reactive and a break happens?
No, because the pipes themselves break no matter, I mean, yes, do you look at older pipes and replace them? Absolutely. The problem with the breaks is the maintenance on the system with the flushing. So that's a big part of this, because the more we get flushed out, the more we get the scouring out, and the more we get the debridulation off the pipes, the less you're gonna have when you have a break. So that's what the goal is. Are we replacing pipes? Absolutely. Is replacing pipes the answer to discolored water? Absolutely not.
So the
not.
answer to that is the decay in the tanks, which is why you're
And it's
flushing
the
them.
flushing, it's the absolute flushing
Okay.
program. So we started the flushing program when we first bought the system. We've done one type of flushing, now we're moving to a more aggressive type of flushing next year.
Okay, thank you. I know we're over time, so if I have other questions, I will email.
But I just want to follow up on one point that was raised. Is there a limit? So if I'm a bill payer,
Yeah.
is there a limit on the number of emails that I can register so that notices get to various family members?
Is there a limit? You're asking the wrong person, I'm not.
Okay, but that's a really good point.
I will get.
Yeah, like
okay,
it
you
shouldn't
can-
just be
Yeah.
relying on
It's at
one.
least
Yeah,
two.
it's at least 2 or 3.
Yeah.
I'm
But maybe we could
positive.
expand
Yeah,
that.
okay.
Yeah.
It might be up to 3.
That's a good point, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Should have more than one.
But again, when we switch over to HMLP, we'll be using their system, so I will have a conversation.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thanks for raising that. That was
Thank
great.
you.
Anyone else?
Yeah, somebody else.
Oh, yes, I'm sorry, come on up and come to the podium. I'm looking at the screen instead of at the people here.
Okay, that's great.
Hi, my name is Mary Beth Burns, and I'm at 319 North Street. I had been owner in Hingham for many years, and prior to 2016, I lived on Main Street and owned there. And on occasion, we would get the brown water, and sheets would get stained, laundry, white clothes. I would call the Ware River office, and they would say, "Come and get Red Be Gone." And I'd go get my packages, do my laundry again. Sometimes it would work, sometimes it wouldn't, sometimes it would take multiple times. Then it seemed to, it wasn't as bad. I feel now, in the last 4 years, it's been horrible. And, showering, you can't shower, you can't wash your hair, you can't make ice cubes. I buy spring water, and I just don't know how we can go on for, you're saying years, to make repairs.
No, I'm
and
not, I'm
clean up
not
this
saying years. What I'm
brown
saying is
water.
the brown water, so I can tell you since I've been here, and people are probably going to say I'm wrong, it's getting better because it doesn't last as long, okay? So you do get that initial brown water slugs coming through the system. And again, take away from the dead-end streets that I was talking about earlier and the areas that it gets trapped, what we call trapped into. So that's why if residents want to talk to us, we need to know your address so we can come address it. What happens now is, as we do more maintenance on the system, it can get a little worse because we're doing things that weren't done before. If you just let it sit there, it's gonna get worse and worse and worse. So as us doing maintenance, it may get a little worse before it gets better. And that's all I'm trying to say. But we look mainly at how long it takes to get out of this, like how long does it take to get mitigated and how long does it take to settle back down? And that has been taking much less time than it used to in the past. Again, take out the dead ends and stuff like that, which we are learning to address. As long as people let us know, we will come right out, take out your meter, flush out your house, and come to the end of your street and flush it off. There are a lot of streets in this town that are dead-ended that have no flushing abilities. We are working on that with a flushing program where we are going to install flushing units. And we're doing that on a case-by-case basis right now because there's so many of them. We're also doing it as streets get paved, and that's what we're doing.
Thank you. So when the Levitt Street incident happened,
Yep.
I called, I happened to be home that day, and I called the office, and they said that they didn't realize that it had gone that far from Levitt to North Street. And I did, again, go down to the office. I did request that I get notifications. I've signed up for them, as well as have gone down to the office in person and requested that I get them, because again, I am a tenant now.
Yep.
And I haven't received anything, because it would be nice to be forewarned, so you're not putting in laundry
Yep.
and then having it ruined.
So send me an email tomorrow. Let me see if we can figure something out.
Okay, all right,
All right.
thank you. Thanks for your
Thank
time.
you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, I mean, Russ, my office is also on North Street, and I saw the brown water, but I got the notice.
Yeah.
So we really need to make sure that the communication happens. And I appreciate that we just heard from someone who rents, and
Yes.
they're frustrated in the ability to get communications.
What you could do, if you're it's a single home? Duplex? The landlord could add you to the thing, so that could be something we talk about, so because there's enough room in there to add you to their account. So let's talk tomorrow. Like if you had a building that had 60 units, we can't add 60 people, but we could add 1 or 2, so let's talk about that. Okay,
Could,
No problem at all.
could a landlord in a large building add each tenant?
we run out of space, so there's only so many you can add. So I'll talk to Darren about that tomorrow, we'll go through that with customer service.
Okay.
The duplexes and two families, I believe, would be not a problem at all. It's the larger buildings, which, again, have their own maintenance staff, their own everything, so they should be able to get it out. But I understand this with the small, maybe two-family, three-family houses, we could talk about that for sure.
And could you give me your email?
Oh, yeah,
Yeah, we'll get that offline.
I'll get it.
Anyone else? Yes,
Well,
please.
I have to apologize because I came in late. I'm Janet Shunko, 1 Harvard Drive, and my issue is not with the brown water, but with the billing. And so I think you covered the billing, and I missed that. You're going to Hingham Light, is that?
Yes.
Okay. I just wanted to see how the inconsistencies with the billing was going to work, because I'm getting a lot of estimate billing, and then all of a sudden I get a large bill. And I think maybe we spoke last year, we had a
Yes.
huge bill and kind of got it all sorted out. And then continued to get estimates, and then another large bill. So I just, and notices that I have a water leak. So I think maybe that will be addressed, I guess.
Absolutely, so we're
Flyers.
yeah, we're being more proactive with it now. One of the things we're finding is radio placement, so we're working on that now.
Is that, you know,
It's where the radio is in your house. We
Okay.
have to get it to a better spot where we can read it, because we drive by and read the radios.
so you have people that are driving by,
Yes.
reading them, but
Yep.
then, because it's like you get this notice in the mail that says, you know, we haven't been you haven't been answering your calls or your notices, and when that's not the case. And so now all of a sudden we have a big bill, and it doesn't make sense to me how it can
And
be so
another reason
high.
why we really want to go to monthly billing, because then those get caught a lot faster, because as the monthly bills come out. But there are exception readings, so yes, we are working on a plan to make that a lot less happening than it is now.
Okay. And so would an answer be to get a new meter after? Because
I
this
will
is-
look at yours tomorrow.
Yeah.
I'll absolutely, I wrote your address
I have
down.
to say that I have
pull it
not
up.
emailed
Yeah.
you about this, but was surprised to get another big bill for this last quarter. And with aquarium, it was pretty consistent, but it
Yep.
also, we did get a new irrigation system. So that could mean that our bill would be higher, but it seems a little bit too high for just one quarter versus what it was the quarter before.
But it's one
So-
Harvard, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll
And
look at it.
the one thing I will say, the positive is that we aren't dealing with any of the brown water, thankfully. So I don't know why our area is, it must be just really the downtown area, certain areas, but
You're in the high pressure zone.
we have
You're in the high
had.
pressure zone. It's a different zone.
We smell the chlorine in the water, but what I was afraid of is that we start to get the brown water and the high bills, and so I just wanted to sort of come here and try to figure out what was going on, so, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, so I think these comments really point to a couple of things. First is that we need to get the Citizens Advisory Group meeting, because that really is their main function, is to hear from residents, to understand what the concerns are, and make sure that those concerns reach this board. And it's a bit disconcerting to hear them for the first time here, rather than going through the cab. Second, I think there's concern about the water quality that I want to make sure that we're addressing. My understanding is that, in fact, the water quality is good.
Yes.
And that to the extent that we are experiencing, or some residents are experiencing brown water, it is either because of a break or because of increased maintenance with the flushing. So that is, I guess, it's an ounce of prevention will ultimately result in better water quality in the long run. So I appreciate the work that you're doing. Again, that it's not just you, it's the department, and it's Veolia. We thank you for your efforts. And with that, Bill or Liz, if you've got anything further to add?
Yeah, I would just add to that, you know, no one should have to deal with brown water on a consistent basis. You know, I live on North Street, I've had it, I get it. You can't drink it, you can't bathe in it, everything I heard tonight, I get that. Well, I think what we need to do is we need to look at where the older lines are, and we've talked about that, and the capital plan to improve those lines going forward. And as we said earlier, some of the lines go back to pre-World War II, My line before it was changed out years ago was like 1912. And Russ, in your plan, you need to continue to be proactive in
Yep.
addressing these plans. I also think anything you can do to put operating procedures in place to mitigate breaks. I would love to tell people that I'm gonna wave my magic wand and water main breaks aren't gonna happen, but they're gonna happen. They're gonna happen on lines that are pre-World War II and when it's 10 degrees out or 0 degrees out like it was the other day. What we need to do is be more proactive in trying to prevent them and then mitigate the impacts when they happen. So, appreciate all your efforts, and, I think we can do better, and we will do better, and I appreciate everybody's comments.
Just one thing in closing, sometimes it's the water service to the house, if it's old, it can cause more problems with what's going on. So a lot, like I said, if you give us our address, that gives us the opportunity to look at your house specifically and your neighborhood. So just please send us your address. If you don't want to put it online, just send me an email and tell me you're having issues with your house, and we'll take a look at it.
If I could ask one last point, too.
Sure.
I know we got some comments about the chlorine. The chlorine is put into water to help make it safe, right, Russ? So I know that if the chlorine smell or taste is strong at points, that is annoying, and it happens in my water. I don't like drinking it either. But we do have to put some chlorine in the water to prevent things like Legionnaires and other bacteria that exist in public water systems. So it's to keep everybody safe. We'll try to do a better balancing the chlorine with the water needs, but I wanted to make that point as well. 'cause
Yeah,
I've heard a
so,
couple
so
comments.
just to jump on that real quick, the new tank and the new booster station is gonna help with that, because we have to put so much in at the plant to get it all the way down to the last point in town, that if we can bump it somewhere else, we can drop it here and bump it here. So that'll be a balancing act, and we'll look at that as we're building the new tank and the new booster station.
And Russ, we are in compliance with all the applicable state and federal
Yes.
regulations with respect to water quality.
And with that, I'm gonna drink some Hingham water.
Okay. And with that, I will accept a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Roll call vote. Liz?
Aye.
Bill?
Aye.
And I'm an aye as well. The Board of Water Commissioners meeting is adjourned, and in 30 seconds, we'll begin the Select Board meeting.